Hello, welcome to my channel, Devops with Prasanna. This is day one of Learn AWS in 30 Days series. And if you haven't watched the day zero, which is Introduction to Cloud and AWS, I'll put the link in description. You can check it out later. In today's session, we'll get started with EC2 instance. Yeah, let's get started. Okay, EC2. So EC2 stands for Elastic Cloud Compute. If you remember from yesterday's discussion, we talked about virtualization, we talked about VMs. So just to recap, this is a hardware. This is a hardware which AWS bought for us and which AWS is maintaining for us. And that is a very thin virtualization layer. It could be a Zen or it could be Nitro or whatever the virtualization layer is. They'll be using that layer. And on top of that, this is a VM. So in this case, there are two VMs. So VM1 and VM2, which is nothing but Virtual Machine 1 and Virtual Machine 2. When as a end user, when we request for EC2 instance, it is nothing but we are requesting for one virtual machine. So this virtual machine will get assigned to us, and we'll start using the virtual machine. So the concept is as simple as that. So VM in AWS terminology, it's called as EC2 instance. That's it. And for all the virtual machines, there are certain properties associated to it. For example, every machine will have core, memory, disk, and things like that. And because it's AWS and there is more complexity to it, there are few more properties which are available for EC2 instance. Like I've just listed on the 6 properties here, but there are like way more than this. But for us to get started, I think this would be sufficient one. So we'll start with region and the availability zone. Region. Region and AZ are very fundamental units to AWS. All the AWS services will be assigned to certain region and certain AZs. AZ in the sense availability zone. First, we'll see what a region is. For example, I want to create a EC2 instance, but the first question to be asked is like in which region the EC2 instance should be created. Let's take a scenario where my application, like I'm in India, and all my users of this application are from India, which means the obvious choice for my EC2 instance should be it should be in India. In India, there are like two regions available. One is Hyderabad, the other one is Mumbai. Let's assume like I'm going with Mumbai region. So I'll request AWS to create an instance in Mumbai region, but within Mumbai region, there are three AZs available. AZs. AZ in the sense availability zone. Availability zone is an actual data center, physical data center, which is present in a location and which is having all the servers and things like that. So what this means is like each and every availability zone will have its own dedicated power supply, dedicated internet connection and things like that. Let's take the same example. Let's say in Mumbai North, Mumbai South and Mumbai East. So these are the three AZs. And I either like there are two ways. Like I can create a EC2 instance in one AZ, for example, like Mumbai North, and I can just deploy my application here and give it to the end user. So this is one way. But the catch here is it is not a fault tolerant system. So the important concept to learn here is like fault tolerance and disaster recovery. So fault tolerance, disaster recovery, DR. And there are other things as well like high availability, scalability and things like that. Yeah, so now I'll talk about fault tolerance. Okay, so let's say like there is something happening in Mumbai North region and there is a total power shutdown, which means this instance will go down and all the end users will be affected. All the end users of my application will be affected, which is not a good thing to happen. So that is called as like how fault tolerant your application is. The best practice is to create one more VM in a different AZ, let's say like in Mumbai South also, and have some kind of load balancer here. We'll talk about load balancer in a later session. So, and then route the traffic between these two VMs. So let's say like in case even if this availability zone goes down, there is one more availability zone with a different power connection, with a different network connectivity and everything, and that can serve a request. So that is a objective. This is for when we are designing the application, we should keep this fault tolerance in mind. And this is applicable to all the AWS services. For example, database, Redis, and everything. You can design it in such a way that it is highly available and it's fault tolerant. Yeah, so this is the other concept which I want to discuss. I'll show you the demo in some time in choosing the region and the AZs. The next topic which I want to discuss is instance type. So as we discussed, the three main properties of a machine are core, memory, and disk. And instance type will take care of this core and memory. So whatever the instance type you choose, it defines how much of core, which else CPUs you are going to get, how much of memory in terms of GB you are going to get. But this is like a slightly bigger topic, so we'll look deeper into it. So this is the information of instance type. Hope it's very clear. Yeah. So, but actually it might look very complicated one, but it is like it's very straightforward concept. So for example, to understand this in a better way, we'll just take these three scenarios: memory optimized, compute optimized, general purpose. So compute optimized. When we want AWS to create a EC2 instance, we'll say what type of workload we are going to run. For example, if my workload is going to be like if I'm going to develop a gaming application, then I'll choose a compute optimized machine, which has for the amount of money which I'm paying, the compute power will be more. And if I'm going to create a database in that virtual machine, then I'll choose a memory optimized instance. And if it's going to be like having everything, like I'll go for general purpose. So this is like a broad category of uh, instances, and this is called family of instance. What is a family? Whether it's a compute optimized family or memory optimized family or general purpose family. And similarly, like storage optimized, accelerated computing, high performance computing. These are like broad categories of EC2 instance available. And maybe like just to give a concrete example of how the instance type will look. So this is how things would be. For example, it will have C7, GN, X large. So the C represents the instance family, which means it's a compute optimized machine. Okay, and 7 represents seventh generation. Amazon will be releasing generations periodically. So it's currently in seventh generation. In near future, they'll be releasing the eighth generation also. And these two are like optional ones. Like sometimes you'll find G, which is a processor family, or in older versions, you'll not even find this one. And G stands for Graviton processor. The Graviton is Amazon's own processor, Graviton processor, and N stands for network optimized. So this is C7GN and dot X large. Whatever is coming after this dot, it represents the instance size. It starts from nano, micro, and then it can go to large, X large, 2X large, 4X large. So this represents how much of the core's memory we are going to get. So to give an example, let's say like we'll take this one. M stands for memory optimized machine, and this belongs to generation 5, and 2x large is the size of that machine. Similarly, R stands for like M stands for general purpose, R stands for memory optimized, R stands for RAM actually. So it's a memory optimized generation 6. 4x is the size, which means comparatively this is 2x large and this is 4x large. It's twice bigger than 2x large. That is the idea. And you'll find instances like T2 micro. T2 is a special type of instance which is called burstable instance. So burstable in the sense, if you are not using the machine, you'll accumulate the credits, which means the cores could be like you could get only one virtual core, but because you accumulated the credits, you can burst up to, let's say, like 5 cores. Once you utilized all the cores, it'll come back to its normal level. So those are the burstable instance, and you can read about all these instances in the documentation. I'll share the link of this documentation also. And micro is a very small machine. And the reason why why I want to talk about this is we created a free tier account yesterday, and only certain type of instances are allowed in a free tier version. Like specifically, only the C2 micro instance is allowed for us to use. And if you use this for 1 month, you'll not have any charge. Like for 750 hours, there is no charge which you'll incur. So basically, like you can run one T2 micro instance for the entire month without any charge. That is subjective. If you try to start one more instance, you should remember to stop the first instance and then start the second instance. That is the idea. And I quickly want to show you one more website which I'll be using often, and this gives a very good summary of the cost and other aspects. Yeah. So it's a instances.vantage.sh. The cost is a very important aspect when it comes to EC2 instance, because you should know for each and every instance type what you're going to pay at the per hour level. And I'm planning to have a session, especially for the AWS cost optimization. So, but to start with, for example, M5 large, I'll select this one. I'll select C5 large just to compare the three instance types: memory optimized, compute optimized, and general purpose. So you can see here like C5 is compute optimized, and by default you're getting 2 virtual cores, and the cost of this C5 large is it's less compared to cost of M5, because in M5 you are getting a general purpose machine and you'll be getting 8 GB of memory, and in R5 you are getting more memory, 16 GB of memory, 2 cores, but the cost is even higher. So this is the idea. Like for the cost which you are paying, you'll be getting a very good uh, compute resource in case of C-type machines. Yeah. So and you can check the on-demand cost, reserved cost, spot instance, and all these things we are going to talk in the later session. But this is a very good site where you can quickly check what is the memory, what is the CPU, and all those things. Yeah. So coming back to this one. So this is about the instance types. Hopefully, like this is not that complicated. So it should be like a very straightforward one. And we'll just talk about one more topic, which is the storage type, where we'll talk about the disk. So all the storages, meaning like the external disk, are like there are multiple types available for storage, but we'll talk about one type specifically, which is EBS volume. So elastic block storage. So that is the type which we are going to provision, and that is the disk capacity. Like we'll specify the disk capacity as 8 GB or 16 GB, and we'll attach this EBS storage to EC2 instance when we are creating the EC2 machine. Yeah, I think like pretty much this is what I want to talk. One more point is about the IP address. So for all, not for all the instance, for all the EC2 instance, you will get a private IP address. But the public IP address is the optional one. But in today's session, we'll have both public and private IP address. In the networking topic, we'll discuss more about what is how to set up a private subnet and all those things. So it's for another day. But today we are going to talk about public and private IP address. And security group is basically like who can access your EC2 instance and how they can access the EC2 instance. For example, you are running a web application and it is served in port 80. So which means Because it's a web application, anyone from the internet, they should be able to access your web application. So we'll configure rules in such a way that anyone from the outside world can talk to port 80 and they should be able to get back the response. So we are going to discuss security group and networking in depth in tomorrow's session. But today, I think as of now, it's good to understand at a very high level. Now we'll go into the demo part. Okay, so I'll go to AWS console. This is the page you will be seeing. Search for EC2, and you can click on launch instance. I'll give the instance name as my first instance -1. And you have to choose what is the operating system we are going to use. I'm going to use Amazon Linux itself. It's a Linux flavor for Amazon, which is on top of Red Hat Linux. And as of like the latest version is 2023 AMA. And we'll be choosing the instance type. You can see only T2 micro is free tier eligible. So we'll choose a free tier eligible instance. And you have to create a key pair. So this key pair is the access to server. For example, if you want to SSH into the machine, you'll be using this key pair and then you'll be SSHing into the machine. So for that, create a key pair. I'll just give my name, Prasanna. It's in the PEM format. I'll create a key pair and save it in some place where you can use that key pair when we are going to SSH into the system. And you can leave the default network, you can leave the default subnet, let it auto assign the public IP address and all those things. I'll in the security group, we'll just allow HTTP traffic to enter into the system. So this is the only configuration you have to allow. We'll talk about security group in detail later. And then the configure your storage, like let it be like 8 GB itself, GP3, let it be the default things. You don't have to change any of this stuff. And then click on launch button. Just make sure like you're using Amazon Linux, which is free tier eligible OS, and T2 micro, which is free tier eligible instance type. So this is the only point which you have to be careful about. And the instance got launched. Yeah, it's in pending state. So we'll just give it some more time. Yeah, so it came to running state. So you can see like there are a lot of properties here in the details section, like details, security, networking. So you can see the public IP address and private IP address. Instance is running, which is fine. Type is T2 micro, which is also good. And yeah, we'll take a look at this in the deep dive session. But this is an instance which we have. It's good. So I'll copy the public IP address, and what I want to do is I want to SSH into the machine. So I'll go into my courses folder. So this is a folder in which I have stored the key. So you should also like go to your folder, and there is one property which you have to check. So for example, if you see here, this prasanna.pem key file which I downloaded, it has read permission for everyone. If you want to understand how this Linux file permission works, please let me know in the comments. I'll try to create a topic for how to handle the file permissions. But as of now, I'm going to make sure like only my current user has read-only access to the PEM file. So which means I'll say chmod change the modifiers 400 for prasanna.pem. We do ls-al. I can see the prasanna.pem file has only read-only access, which is good. Now what I'll do is I'll SSH into the machine which we created now. So I'll copy the IP address, SSH-i. Prasanna. So I is an identifier. So you have to give which PEM file you are going to use. And by default, the user name is EC2 user. For this is based on the OS we selected. So in our case, we selected the OS as Amazon Linux, and this is our IP address. Okay, cool. So we are into the machine now. So if I say who am I, EC2 user, and if I say host name, I should see my IP address. If I say host name, I should get the private IP address. So it's a 4687. 4687 is my private IP address. So things looks good. Now what I want to do is like I want to set up a very simple web server and host some static content there. So that is the idea. So for that, I'm like because I said like Amazon Linux is based out of Red Hat Linux, you should use a yum package manager. Um, I'll say like yum. Maybe I first will convert into sudo su yum update hyphen y and yum install HTTPD. HTTPD is an Apache web server. So I'm just installing the web server here, and I'll say like systemctl enable HTTPD, which means like start the HTTP service at start of this machine. So if even if the machine got rebooted, the service will be started whenever the machine starts. Systemctl start HTTPD, systemctl status HTTPD. So I can see like it is an active status, which means it's good. Which means if I say localhost, I should be able to get back the it works message. And this is coming from the default location of var www.html. So this is a place if it's which will serve the index.html file, and that is a basic for all the web servers. For example, if I, instead of saying it works, if I want to have my own content, I can override a file here, and maybe like yeah, we can override this content and we can give our own thing. This is from learn AWS in 30 days. And then I'll just say what is the host name it is. I'll write it to a file called index.html. So if I cat this file index.html, you can see there is the message which we are given along with the IP private IP address. So this looks good. If you say curl localhost, you can see this is the content which is served now. This is good, which means like the web server is running and then it is responding in the port 80. Maybe like you will have noticed like I didn't specify the port 80 because it is a default port, but I can say it explicitly also. So this looks good, but what will happen if I try to access it from the outside world? So what I'll do is I'll go here, I'll take the public IP address again, and I'll come here and say http:// yeah, port 80. And you can see the message. So this is from learn AWS in 30 days and our private IP address. The reason we could able to access it is because we opened a security group. So that is a very simple checkbox. It said like allow HTTP traffic from anywhere from the outside world. So we enabled that, and that is the reason we could able to access this one. Okay, so I think like this looks good. So this is a demo which I want to show, and I want to add one more concept as well. For example, you can see there is a public IP which got assigned. There is a slight nuance to this public IP. So where like this is this instance is in running state, I can either stop the instance or I can terminate the instance. So what is the difference? So stopping the instance is equivalent to like pause the instance. You will retain all the configuration, you will retain all the private IP address and things like that, but you will not be billed for those hours, for the hours which the instance got stopped. And if I terminate the instance, it's equivalent to deleting that instance itself, which means I have to create a new instance and I have to specify all the configuration again, and it will be given a new IP private IP address. So that is the difference. So in this case, what I'll do is I'll stop my EC2 instance. Yeah, so it is in the stopping state. Like we'll give it a few more seconds. Okay, cool. So the instance got stopped, and you can see the public IP address got released. So this is a case. If I start this instance again, I'll be getting a different public IP address. I can't use this 65.0.4.65 anymore. We'll talk about the public IP, private IP, and how to make sure like the public IP remains fixed always. All those things in the networking session. I think this looks good. If I go back to this, yeah, we try to cover all the concepts, and we have showcased a demo also. Please try this out. Like try to install HTTPD. I'll give all the commands in the GitHub repository. You can the description of that GitHub repository will be in the link, so you can check that one. And yeah, happy learning. Signing off.